estimate. This was a big dog, and there was something about that dog that caused a latent dog switch to be turned on just by looking into those big brown eyes. I cannot say that he hypnotized me, but maybe he did. I perceived a gentleness and a nobility of the animal. My guest identified his dog as an American Staffordshire Terrier. This single event convinced me to reverse my previous stand. Being a first-time dog owner, we decided to research dog breeds and dog behavior in order to find a dog which would fit into our home with two adolescent boys. So we went on the Canadian Kennel Club site, and I guessed descriptors such as great with children, nanny dog, loves people, great companion, courageous, influenced us to adopt a staff bull terrier that we named Spud. Not until we took the dog for his first vet visit did we find out that Spud was a category of dog which labeled him as a Pittbull, which explains some of the derisive looks we received on taking him for his walks. However, the choice was right, as Spud took his place as an extended member of the family, displaying the fine qualities attributed to the breed. Despite the fact that he was attacked by a lab at 8 months, he has never ever displayed aggressive behavior. Then in 2005, after a number of serious dog attacks that became sensationalized in the press, the former Attorney General, Michael Bryant, with the blessing of Dalton McGuinty, decided to introduce breed-specific legislation directed at banning pit bull breeds and all pit bull look-alike dogs, thus sanctioning the destruction and eventual elimination of these breeds. I am certain the issues are well known to this audience. How could a noble breed, which was once the most favored family pet of the first half of the 20th century, now become arch villain and killing machine and ticking time bomb, as Mr. Bryant referred to them? How could such a breed be featured on the cover of Life magazine 3 times? How could such a dog be honored by 3 presidents for his exploits in the trenches of World War I? How could a comic pit bull named Petey of Our Gang fame still have movie star status 80 years later? Can Nipper, the icon of years gone by for RCA Victor, listening to his master's voice, should now be accused of being a land shark, as Michael Bryant described pit bulls? As a physician, in caring for patients for half my life now, how could I be associated with a breed now bent on human aggression and injury? This would go against everything I believed in as a medical caregiver. However, as a medical doctor, I am taught to look at evidence and statistics. Before the ban was put into place in 2005, I attempted to visit my MPP, who happened to be Michael Bryant, in order to introduce him to the family staff. But his constituency office told me, "Don't bother coming." 5 years later, I attempted again to exercise the democratic process and meet with my new MPP, Dr. Eric Hoskins, Liberal, St. Paul, remember that, in order to make the case against breed-specific legislation. However, despite 3 attempts to meet with him directly and personally visiting his constituency office, there is yet to be a meeting made. As a constituent in his riding and a medical colleague, I was deeply disappointed that Dr. Hoskins refused to meet with me directly. If Dr. Hoskins would have had the decency to meet with me, I would have told him that after 5 years, breed-specific legislation is a failure in Ontario and every place else. Prior to the ban in 2004, over 5,000 bites were recorded, and after the ban, no significant difference. Contrast that to the exemplary Calgary model, where attacks fell from 1,900 to less than 150 in a city of over 1 million. They don't have breed-specific legislation. And according to Calgary Animal Services, the breed most likely to bite were Labrador Retrievers, followed by various shepherd breeds, and pit bulls ranked a distant third. Now, a Georgia-based group called the American Temperate Test Society has put 25,000 dogs through a 10-part standardization process designed to test various factors, including friendliness in the company of people. 84% of pit bulls tested have passed, ranking pit bulls ahead of beagles, Airedales, collies, and dachshunds. They have tested over 1,000 pit bull type dogs, and only one pit bull has been disqualified because of aggressive tendencies. The conclusion: they have a good temperament and they are very good with children. In fact, the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, commonly referred to as the nanny dog of the United Kingdom, is ranked in the top 10 best breeds for children, according to researchers at Southampton University. In a 10-year span, from 1996 to 1975, the Center for Disease Control in the United States reported only one documented case of a fatal dog attack in the United States, which could even remotely be identified as a pit bull. Unfortunately, by the mid-70s, there was an emerging awareness of the horrible and brutal practice of dogfighting, which got attention of both law enforcement and the media. Unfortunately, this exposure would strike a chord with those macho individuals craving a dog that can impress, intimidate, and frighten others by mistreatment. As a result, the breed becomes attractive to substandard owners, whereby decent owners would shy away from the breed. Over the past 2 decades, media and unfortunately politicians have thrived in portraying pit bulls as almost mythical demons filled with statements that are not supported by science and often driven by hysteria. Concerning reporting, we all know how difficult it is to identify dog breeds. Just ask Michael Bryant, the architect of the legislation, in his, quote, scientific explanation of identification. And I quote Mr. Bryant, "I said before and I will say again, if it walks like a pit bull, if he barks and bites like a pit bull, wags his tail like a pit bull, it's a pit bull." That is going to apply, I'm sure, to the vast majority of identification cases. Now that's pretty scientific, eh? But unfortunately for Mr. Bryant, when asked to point out which dog was a pit bull on being shown photos of different dogs, was unable to do so, called this a trick, and so missed the point entirely. So if Mr. Michael Bryant couldn't identify a pit bull from a group of similar appearing dogs, what makes the press think they can do a better job? The result was an over-reporting of pit bull attacks. If it had a big head and teeth, it was a pit bull. Unfortunately, much of the CDC, the Center for Disease Control statistics for dog bite-related fatalities in the United States were based on identification through press clippings without direct verification by the CDC. This produced unsubstantiated stats that unfortunately did not do the breed any favors. It didn't matter that the odds of dying from a dog attack in 1996 was 1 in 11 million versus 1 in 4 million from dying from a lightning strike. Something had to be done about those darn pit bulls. We would like to know that our laws are passed based on scientific data, proven theories, or the testimony and evidence provided by, if not the majority, of a respectable number of experts or professionals. When the government decided to introduce the bill, they invited experts both for and against the ban. Trouble is, the government had only one expert witness, whereas there were 43 organizations against the ban. One has to be amazed as to why politicians absolutely refuse to accept scientific evidence by experts in the field and believe wild media claims or other outlandish mythical theories. Perhaps there is another reason. Why were the Liberals so quick to pass this legislation, despite the overwhelming evidence against it? Now, just prior to the dog attacks, the Liberals had created a stir in that they broke their election promise, what else is new, not to raise taxes. In fact, McGuinty signed the Taxpayers Protection Act, which forbade increases in taxes in certain areas without either referendum or election. Shortly after being elected, he broke that signed pledge and introduced the health tax. Then he stopped payments for eye exams, chiropractors, and physiotherapists. What better way to divert the press and public from their broken election promises by now focusing attention on defenseless dogs? McGuinty could have introduced useful legislation that addresses individual bad owner and bad dogs based on scientific evidence, but that would seem too complex. The line was, get rid of pit bulls, and 12,000 already have been put to death or similarly directed into medical research. Then people can feel safe. This government pulled the same diversionary tactic when they introduced the unpopular HST and Echo tax on July 1st. Within 1 month, without debate or discussion, they enacted a zero-tolerance law that forbade alcohol use for less than those 22 years of age. Is this a pattern? Pick on a group that cannot mount any defense to deflect attention from unpopular moves such as new taxes. I don't question the merit of restricting alcohol consumption, but I do question the democratic process here at work. Bottom line, the breed is banned for political expediency. Look, pit bulls make great pets as long as you don't beat them, chain them, abuse them, and use them to fight your battles. In fact, attacking people is not a pit bull trait. We must enact laws which protect all dogs from incompetent, substandard, and abusive owners, and also protect people from individual dogs. In so doing, we will protect our canine friends and prevent tragic attacks on people. Look, you've all heard of Michael Vick and his dogs. These dogs were all hugely physically scarred and abused. However, they were rescued and successfully adopted out. Now, if a pit bull who has been exposed to such horrid treatment still will not give up on us, we must not give up on them. I urge the passage of Bill 60, and thank you, Sherry DeNovo, to end breed-specific legislation and address real issues. Unfortunately, given my personal experience with my own Liberal MPPs, I am not optimistic. So, should this bill fail to pass, then I urge Ontarians to stop being pawns and take control of the chessboard when the next provincial election is called. I thank you.